Cool. Maybe we can start. Scotty, Michael, soon. Are you guys in the call? I see you guys in the call. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. I'll. Okay, we can start. Scotty, the field is all yours. Please go ahead.
Excellent. Welcome everybody. Today I'm going to walk us through kind of the high level V1 that we have for rewards. Now I know some of you folks may have seen earlier versions of this. Some of it's going to be the same. You're probably going to have some questions. We're going to have a lot more answers this time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through what we're aiming to accomplish with this release, go into a little bit what do the interfaces look like, kind of the architecture. But I really want to get through the slides kind of quickly to open it up to questions. The other way we can do it, if you want, is you can just raise your hand and we'll stop and ask questions right off the bat. So these slides are not going to be very dense. We're going to go through at a high level, and I want to activate questions and connect you guys to resources. So feel free to interrupt. Also, feel free to save your questions to the end should you choose. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, the one thing with the chat is when I go to my screen sharing, I may not be able to see it. So the hand really helps.
We can stop you, Scott, if there are questions. I'll just ping you and say there are questions on this.
Okay. Everybody can see that. Yeah, we're doing great. So rewards, let's talk about it. V1. Very quickly, the agenda. We're going to go over the goals. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to accomplish? What's out of scope? There are some things that we've cut from scope to make sure this release follows M2 very quickly. We'll go over what those features are, the design, and then a little bit about what's coming. And I imagine a lot of the questions will be on integration and then what's coming. So what we want to do is ideally we want to start shipping faster. We want to start shipping smaller, more incremental releases. That way it gives you guys an idea on how the protocol is evolving. Also gives you access to early integration. And so things like big whopping releases like M2 should be more rare. And to do that, we're going to do a very short, quick rewards mechanism that we will then iterate on in future releases. The primary goals of this release is to enable you folks as AVSs to incentivize those operators to register for their AVS with stake. Right now, maybe you're running a points program or something, or people just want to help out, or they want to be able to run the software. This gives you an actual incentive mechanism with rewards, and for that, then you will actually attract stakes. So we want the stakers to actually delegate to their operators. We do have quite a bit of delegation going on today. Ideally, there would be more if the incentive was there. Oops. Can I go back? Nope, that's that. There we go. And so this will produce a token distribution channel. So you can consider these rewards mechanisms as a way to distribute to both operators and stakers of your networks. Because of these incentives, you'll actually get a materialized network there because there is an incentive to actually run it outside of pure joy or speculation. And then, produces, some income operators for stakers to price at risk or opportunity costs for running the network. Any immediate questions on the goals? Seems pretty simple this time. And so in levity here, trust the plan. We are not with this release, we have the incentive structures. People are no longer doing this for no reason. And so that's the big unlock here, is that people are then delegating stake and running software for a purpose. So the key features here, and there is some that's missing that we will go over. AVSs can reward with what I'm calling L1 ERC20 token to selected strategies. So the idea is all of the payments are Ethereum mainnet ERC20 token standards. So depending on the origins of your token and what network it's coming from, it will need, for this to work in this version, you will need an L1 ERC20, representation of this token. Right now, and this is a piece that is very much likely going to change, operators collect a default unconfigurable 10% commission on all payments. I know there are some AVSs that this doesn't work for. There are other models that we're exploring, and we're actually planning an incremental release on feature on the payment features later this quarter that will likely change this. More to come on that. And then, of course, then stakers collect their weight of the remaining 90%. And so operators take a commission, you pay in ERC20s, and then based on the relative stake weight across the whole AVS, these funds are then distributed to those users accordingly without anybody else having to take custody of them. So all of the computation of who has owned what is provided by the protocol. So again, the idea is here to deliver iteratively, making sure that we have the right payment guarantees in place on different epochs as like commissions and things are changing, was going to introduce some scope that we really didn't need until closer to slashing. So we've cut it out. So no variable operator commission yet. Those concerns will be alleviated. The idea is that this effort started when it did, and we're going to get this ready for AVSs on mainnet far sooner by making iterative deliverables. Michael, do you want to take the opportunity to walk people through some of the ABIs here?
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys are looking at this, like the strategy multiplier, if you guys are familiar with our middleware contracts in the repo for like AVSs to build their AVS contracts off of, this should not be a surprise to you because this is kind of what's used for defining a quorum, which is like a linear combination of strategies and their relative multiplier weightings. So that same concept is applied here, where you create a reward submission and you value certain strategies depending on how you guys value the kind of stake that's in your AVS network. And then as a part of the submission, you include your token for your rewards and the amount supply, as well as a start timestamp and a duration. So it's basically a time range in terms of like epochs, and you will distribute out rewards over this period of time. And this will be done in the same way where we had like the 10% commission to the operators, and then the remaining 90% to the delegated operators. Yep.
Could you go back to the previous slide? So we have a token and amount from the reward submission, and this is the reward for everyone, right? But I do not quite get strategies and multipliers. Like, how does it connect with token and amount, or it's not connecting at all?
So like an example would be, I want to pay, let's just say you have 100 tokens. I want to pay 100 tokens over the next 30 days to everybody on my network. And I want to pay people using STETH 60% of this, so 0.6. And I want native restaked like Eigenpod ETH to be 0.4.
I see. Okay, so this strategy multiplier divides that amount somehow, right?
That's right. And it's titrated, and we'll get into the details here. It's titrated every 7 days. So like the epochs are like 7 days over that whole period. So that 100 tokens will get paid out over the 30-day period based on the relative strategy weights and then the stake weights of the operators and stakers in it. So like if you were to make one payment per month, that token amount would be your budget.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add on to this, like for EigenDA, for example, and like the ETH quorum, we weight like the different strategies according to their underlying like ETH amounts. So of course, like you have different like LSTs that have like rebasing elements of them. So this is just to kind of coordinate them to all be like equal weighting at the same time. But this can also be taken further, where like you're maybe subjectively like weigh a certain strategy more, or if there's like a, I don't know, supposedly there's like other tokens outside of like LSTs, or maybe the icon token, you weigh certain strategies more. So this is just to add that kind of optionality for AVSs and weighing.
You want to keep going here, Michael?
Yeah, so create AVS reward submission. This is taking in the struct that we just were mentioning on the previous slide. Yeah, the reward submission here. So you can pass in an array of reward submissions, and these reward submissions will be sent to this function call is specifically on the AVS service manager, or sorry. This is on the rewards coordinator contract. They're just named the same because they're like proxied functions. But this is the interface on the rewards coordinator contract, and all token amounts transferred into this contract will be processed through our pipeline to be distributed out, which we'll go over further.
Yeah, and to Michael's point, we have provided source code examples for how to support this by proxy in your AVS service manager, including setting the proper allowances.
Yep. And we also have docs on like the interfaces and the new contract we have deployed. So you guys don't have to be like too worried about like the interfaces here. This is just so you guys can get like a broad overview and understanding.
Yeah. And I guess the thing here you see is that you can submit as many as you want at any single call, and then you can call this as many times. So if you wanted to only pay forward the next week, you could call this once a week. If you wanted to set quarterly budgets, you could do that. If you wanted to do something crazy and erratic, then like you'd be able to do that as well, including running marketing campaigns or providing concentrated rewards during a specific period of time. All of that sort of stuff is at your disposal. So we try to be as unopinionated as possible, but we also provided this range functionality to reduce the gas, the ability for you to kind of express this over every single shot. It also provides some sort of forecast or schedule for stakers. It's very, very nice to have telegraphed like, hey, I've escrowed $50 million worth of my token over the next 30 days here. And so then, people can log on to the website and see the rewards that are coming. So really, if you wanted to use this, you upgrade your service manager contract and call a single function once every 90 days, and you're good to go. There was a question in the chat.
Good question.
Yeah. If rewards are specific to wrapped L1 ERC20 assets at this stage, does that mean that EigenLayer will have a whitelist of canonical wrapped L1 asset addresses only to determine what actually is an L1 asset? How would that onboarding process be handled for new L1s in the short term? When you say new L1s, Don, do you mean like new chains?
Yeah, I just mean just onboarding any asset that wants to be supported, like for rewarding AVSs. I guess this might be like a kind of governance scenario-ish to be like whitelisted.
Yeah, so we discussed that, and we decided permissionless was the way to go.
Cool.
So one of the things that makes this easier is that those tokens don't really move, right? Like you put them into the reward coordinator, they are reallotted, I guess is the term, based on this little like mini roll-up thing that we have, which I'll get into how it works. And then the claimer removes them from that one place. So there's not a bunch of crazy stuff that's happening where we feel like we need to lock it down. For rewards, there's no whitelist.
Thanks.
It really is as simple as these memes. Yes, we still have whitelisting for strategies. That's an important differentiation. For rewards, you could pay an Eigen Inu token, which if you wanted to, we have some supply on testnet only. So we're going to shill our testnet meme coin. Mike, you want to take this one?
Yep. So this interface is related to receiving your rewards as a operator or a staker. In this scenario, we just differentiate. We don't have any differentiation. We just call them earners. And so they will call this function called process claim. which will basically have a claim struct, which will provide proofs for a Merkle route that's periodically posted to the rewards coordinator contract. And this proof will claim all cumulative rewards up to the latest point of the latest submitted route. So even if there are multiple routes posted weekly, if I'm an operator and haven't claimed my commission rewards over like the past month, all I have to do is just call one process claim for the latest submitted route, and then I'll receive all my cumulative rewards. And there's also a recipient address, so I can set a destination address to where I want the rewards to be funneled to.
That's right. So both operators and stakers will use this ABI to process their claims. They can claim up. I think the rewards Merkle claim actually has an array in there, right? So we can do as many tokens as necessary in a single call, Michael?
Yes. So you can actually distinguish which tokens you want to claim for specifically. Maybe in like the Merkle tree, there's like other reward tokens you've been eligible for, but you have that distinction and that optionality here.
Yeah, and so the users are actually going to be able to do like check boxes and then press claim. That's going to be kind of the experience for them. They will have to claim the tokens. The protocol won't actively send it to their addresses. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay.
Yep. So here are just some kind of like important like struct mappings and view functions that can be useful to use, especially if they're like you're like a institutional operator or you're like a LRT and you want to process like and you want to like calculate these Merkle proofs on your own and generate them rather than using our like UI that will launch with like selecting all the, as Scott was mentioning, like selecting checkboxes of different tokens. Here you can just confirm. You can confirm and calculate like the different leaf hashes and proofs. So, but there'll be a separate like CLI library for actually generating the proofs. And there's also global operator commission bips. This is to be configured to 10% in the V1 rewards release. And yeah, cumulative claim. This is just showing how much you've earned up to this point for a specific token and a specific earner.
Michael, would it be accurate to say global operator commission bips is like preeminently on the path of deprecation?
Yeah, this is we got feedback from a lot of AVSs about like the initial rewards versioning. And what we initially wanted was to kind of prevent of a like race to the bottom for operator commissions, and then where operators just aren't earning any rewards at all. But this seems to be an issue for like high computational AVSs, where like the operators like setup no requirements are extremely high and they have expensive operational setups. So we are probably going to, if not in this V1 rewards release, like have this to be flexible. It'll be changed in a very fast follow release of operator sets, but that's for another day.
Yeah, I want to tease that because I do want to collect some feedback there, but we'll get to that. But to Michael's point, this number is going to return 10 or whatever forever, and you won't really need this. So we have it here. We didn't pull out of the design. The contracts are already audited. We're already on the way out the door. But the way that the next iteration is working, I just want to let you guys know, like, you probably don't need to touch that one.
Claim delegation. So going back to that, like that interface of process claim where operators and stakers can call to receive all of the rewards and send it to a recipient address. Stakers and operators, yeah, this one specifically. Stakers and operators can configure a specific, I don't want to call it a delegated address because let's not confuse that with delegation on the core protocol, but they can set a permissioned address on their behalf to receive, to call process claim and claim all of the rewards, their cumulative rewards. So if you don't want to have if you want to give this to another authority to do all the claiming, to do all the gas expenses, you can set a specific claimer for, and there's a mapping in the contract for this.
So it's just basically another integration point. Like if if you were doing something sophisticated where you had multiple staking accounts, but you wanted to claim them all, then you would deploy a contract and then set that contract as the claimer. And, that's kind of the idea there. There's also some regulatory benefits to this as well, having somebody else completely do the claiming on your behalf, especially if like an institutional staker couldn't handle the reward token directly for whatever reason.
Yep, exactly. And if this mapping is not set at all, it just defaults to the earner itself. It requires you to be the operator or staker.
And this applies for all AVSs, all tokens, correct?
Correct. It is against the reward account for the staker or operator. So said another way, if you are a developer in this call on an AVS, you don't even have to care about these two. We just want you to know about them. Like you literally don't care. You never have to care about this as an AVS. But this is how it works. There's a lot of calculations on how people get paid. And if we did that on chain in Solidity, the contract would probably be pretty big. And it would cost $1 billion to send anything at scale. So the protocol does that part. So one way to think about what we've done is we've kind of built an embedded rollup. And you can think of it as calling, submit reward as like a bridge in with a very specific instruction set in VM around making these stake weighted calculations. We post that Merkle root, that state root, back to the L1, which is really just a Merkle tree of your earner's address, the token address, and then the total amount accrued, of which you prove against those leaps. And then like the claimers are actually kind of withdrawing from the bridge. So you do a deposit/bridge, you do some off-chain processing. Our architecture right now is an Airflow pipeline. There's going to be a complete reimagining of what this looks like here pretty soon. But then that Merkle root goes back, batches back up. So very similar to kind of a roll-up, very optimistic roll-up. All that computation is happening off-chain, is done using verified inputs from the Ethereum blockchain via all the events. So anybody can make these calculations and verify them. And then that's posted back up. Michael, is there anything you wanted to add on kind of the Airflow stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there will be multiple sources for like indexing events, like our own internally hosted node, to ensure like the actual integrity of the data being processed. So
yeah, so
more on that will come later.
Yeah, what we do there is we have two different external vendors and an internal node. We get all the events, we reconcile across the three to make sure we have the full data set. Then we translate it from this like event model to kind of like a relational protocol model where we have the full state of the protocol basically at any epoch. Those are what we call the silver tables. And then we do one final transformation to get to the payments. So we have the SQL and the code. It's all going to be open sourced. We're even getting it audited as well. And the idea is actually that the final component is run externally, somebody outside of ID Labs. And then ultimately here, this computation will be distributed and verified and trust minimized. Yes. Yes is the answer. Now, anyone being like, could you just hook up to our data lake? Not if we set the security permissions correctly. But none of the data that we have is a secret. It all comes off of events, and we will post the code. All of it will be completely open source. Brandon.
And so if I'm an AVS and I want to inject additional considerations into this calculation, what does that look like today, and what is that expected to look like in the future?
Great question. Today, it would look like a feature request to the protocol, or us telling you guys telling us what your use case is and how this doesn't fit. Ideally, we come up with a design that is robust enough that you can express it with just a few mechanisms. That may not always be the case. So right now, it's come talk to us, and we'll definitely be considering these things and integrating them into our next releases. Long term, I don't want to promise anything yet, but you can imagine this as being a very simple VM with kind of one instruction set that nobody can change. If it's a roll up, you could see a pathway to making that logic far more dynamic and far more permissionless. Potentially adding programmability to that, to this kind of roll up mechanism. And so the more creative your feature requests become, I think the faster those sorts of features will get accelerated. Immediately for like heavy compute based payments, I think our operator set, aka enshrined quorums with variable operator permissions, will solve a bunch of that problem. But we're not fully baked there as well. So this is an open call for your payment wishes and dreams to be put on our plate so we can see how everyone's thinking about it. And so then the idea here is, I'm being coy. You actually are using a roll-up without even knowing about it. You don't have to change your network. You don't have to bridge funds. You use the L1 and then magic happens and people get their money. So no one has to touch this thing. And we want to be creative and find ways to keep it that way. Audits. Obviously, we got the smart contract audited by Sigma Prime. We're going out and getting like specialized data pipeline audits as well because of the architecture. This is a little different, so we're doing getting additional eyes there. We do have somebody we are working with for the third-party root batch. I don't know if we're like entirely public on that, but if I told you who was running it, you would recognize the name. The idea is that the person who's actually posting the root isn't Eigen Labs, and that there's a governance component to that, and an in protocol mechanism to replace that person and invalidate their results should they be wrong. So even though this is kind of a trusted actor, it is governed, and there will be someone other than us running it. AVS engagement, service manager migration. That's you guys. We're doing this. Brandon.
Oh yeah, just would it be fair to call the update process for this payment state root an optimistic process?
Yes. Yeah. So you post the root. Great question, Brandon. It bakes for 7 days and then becomes active. In that 7-day period, we can invalidate that root and replace the person who updated it should we need to. So there is a trusted component, but we can also fix our mistakes without, funds going in the wrong direction because of reality or mistakes or those sorts of things. So we do have a service manager migration. We do have that code. This is an open call to get it. Ask us if you can't find it. Get into our Slacks and ask for help. Give us errors, feedback. What's good, what's bad, what's ugly. We want to hear it. Public testnet. We actually are already on public testnet, and I think we've been out for about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks now. So we are on Hulsky, and you can begin deploying contracts and integrating and testing. And then mainnet. There's some things that we need to do on mainnet, mainly around security, getting that third-party root batcher done, getting that final audit done, and then getting you guys lined up, with rewards so we can start attracting the stake that we need to run our networks. Roadmap. What's happening after this? Operator sets and operator rewards is another one that's coming. It's basically this, plus maybe a few other functions around how the funds get split up, with including the concept of operator sets. So with ICANN-DA or some of your other AVSs have this idea of quorums or like sub AVSs, where these operators are running different software at different loads or take on different roles or tasks inside of your network. Operator sets allow you to design who is active in those different pools of operators as part of your AVS. So right now, someone's either registered or not. It's binary. There's no differentiation. And with this version of payments, you're kind of paying all of them, even if they're not in an active set. Being active inside an operator set will mean you are eligible during that epoch for all payments bound to that operator set, assuming you have the right strategy staked with that operator. And when slashing releases, which won't be for another 2 kind of incremental releases, the slashing agreement will happen at the operator set level, and the operator who's opting in will say how much of their stake is slashable to this operator set. And so if I'm an operator and I'm in like multiple quorums, I can kind of control my slashable stake and the payments that I receive for each one. And so then the idea is that you can break up your roles or your tasks or your compute requirements. People can price their risks or their operations against that work. And they do it and they value it against the payments that you're putting into your operator set. And so what you do there is you end up creating a price market for your payments for both the stake and the compute. Brandon.
So in the meantime, if you want to make sure that only operators that meet activity requirements or meet some SLA, similar to how ICANN-DA has been managing things, only those folks are paid. What's the recommendation?
The recommendation here would be to make sure that only those people are registered in your operator set. We have something called standby mode. So if somebody's not if their signing rate isn't high enough, you can kick them into standby mode and then they won't get paid or slashed, excuse me, during, while they're in standby. And then if they're in standby, an AVS could opt to add them back into the set. So instead of fully ejecting an operator, then having to have them come back, you can just say, not now. And then, okay, I need your compute again, or I need your stake again. So AVSs can control this once the operator has opted into it and set their standby mode. So there actually is a protocol guarantee that AVSs can fully manage who's getting paid and who's available for slashing.
And I'd also just add on to that. Prior to that, how we handle registration, deregistration, the core protocol views an AVS purely by just the address of its service manager. But now this is going to basically be changed in operator sets to it's a tuple of the address of the service manager of the AVS as well as a UN32 ID value. We chose UN32 because it's sufficiently large enough where you can manage the actual sets of validators or node operators you have in your AVS, but it can also open up optionality if you wanted to do task-based operator sets for specific tasks or features where they can have actually overlap in multiple operator sets. So this is really just increasing the flexibility in how you want to manage slashing and rewards as an AVS. So.
And then, how you choose to leverage those enshrined quorums is, I guess, part of your network design. Right? Maybe you have some people doing compute and some people doing signing and some people doing verification. Maybe your AVS requires that they're in both quorums to be able to do some third type of work. All of that will be up to you. But instead of having to manage all that yourself and then not having the ability to pay out and slash against it, you now have this enshrined quorum concept in the following payments release. Once that's in place, then adding slashing functionality on top of that is basically 2 additional APIs. An API for the operator to say, here's my slashable stake for this operator set. And then one API for the AVS service manager to say, okay, slash this guy. in this operator set, and then to do it. That's with something called unique security. Shavik is cooking something on that. We will fully explain what that is, but those will be built on top of operator sets. So what you're going to want to do now is get people to delegate their stake to your AVS and register. So you have the infrastructure in place and you're distributing your token. Then as you start to think about slashing and the operator set release comes out, you're going to want to move your payments into operator sets such that the operators actually move into the right quorum for where you need them to be for slashing. And then when slashing releases, you know, they'll need to set their slashable stake or their, you know, because then you can say, all right, just being in the operator set doesn't matter. Now it's against your slashable bips. And so then they'll actually have to opt into setting their stake slashable to continue getting paid. And so we're helping you migrate your users from just signing up to run your AVS ignorantly all the way into the proper quorum with the right slashable stake to run your network. So Matt, no, everything I said about operator sets is coming fully after this release. And so then the idea is instead of delivering operator sets and slashing all together in say like November, we're doing it in this kind of piecemeal fashion, you know, every 6 to 8 weeks for the rest of the year to slowly move people out. Now, if you say, well, I don't want to do it twice, I'm like, okay, wait till operator sets, but there are going to be other AVSs that are using this functionality to attract stake and operators. So we're trying to give people some optionality and then also make the stepwise migration a little easier and a little smaller. Brandon.
Yeah, so just one more clarification. So if you wanted to go live with this today, I mean, granted, it's only on testnet, it's not on mainnet, and you wanted to, as an AVS, have control over who you're paying, standby is still coming soon. So you would just need to kick those operators, similar to how it's done back in DA.
Yeah. The other thing that is worth mentioning is when we go to mainnet with this release, AVSs who do have validly scheduled payments to their operators will show this reward yield in the UI. And so as stakers are going through and choosing their operators, they will see what operators are earning against which AVSs they are running that are paying rewards. That is to say, if you set up a payment, it will be visible to end stakers that will help them make the decision in choosing operators that, you know, have signed up for your service. Yes.
Scott, so quick question. When we think of like most POS chains or proof of work chains, the majority of payments are operator addressable insofar as if you're a block proposer, you receive reward for being the block proposer. Other validators who aren't the block proposer don't receive rewards for you proposing that block. In the EigenLayer payment roadmap, do you guys intend at a future point to have a similar feature to this if you were building a POS system? Or is that something that's out of scope?
Like to be able to pay block producers directly?
To pay a given operator for a specific task completed in design, similar to how a POS chain or a proof of work chain would pay the actor who mined or proposed a block.
Like a direct to operator payment.
A single payment to a single actor. And you could disperse it to the stakers of that operator as well, but the payment is addressable to a single party.
I think we are doing directly, or we're doing operator directed payments. Who raised their hand?
Oh yeah. So I was just going to add on this here. So basically the idea here is that the payments would be addressable to specific work products coming from the service. And so that is definitely something that is going to be in the future.
Gotcha. So if you were to encode the task as a work product, you could address a payment to that work product.
That's not supported by this current release.
Yeah. And there's also a differentiation between being able to pay adequately for work versus paying per task. Like I am now telling Ethereum L1 on every single signature that happened off chain. I'm going to pay you microtransactions per signature, which ultimately looks like a scheduled lump payment directly to an operator, which I think is going to cause some regulatory concerns for stakers, but maybe that's orthogonal. When it comes to operator sets, you can design your quorums such that specific quorums are doing specific work, and then you can pay them against that work. So like if you're a block producer, how often are you producing blocks based on your stake? And then you can pay them kind of commiserately that way and say, if you're a block producer, go into this operator set. Otherwise, you're not getting paid for producing blocks.
Understood. But
yeah.
would that work with the market? For example, you have a market of equivalent participants and a given participant outperforms the rest of the market, and so they receive a disproportionate reward, or is it just directly uniform?
Yeah, please reach out and let's talk about your specific
sure.
requirements. We definitely want to gather these constraints.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on, like the operator sets can kind of like achieve like task-based rewards. Obviously not the same granularity of like, okay, I propose a block, because then it's basically, all right, we're going to do like a transfer for each action or task that happened in the AVS, and that's not feasible in terms of gas. So there should be like, there'll be more discussions on this.
And there might be other ways we can do that. It just won't. Yeah. So Brandon's giving you the right advice. Like reach out to him. Let's dig into it. Let's take a very specific example. Like I know for Lagrange, it's like this, like, you know, these cross-chain like posting pieces, right? And so it's very discrete actions that are taking place.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mr. Jonathan.
Hi guys. I think I saw it somewhere. I think it was the Slack thread, or maybe it was the kind of forum thread. But I saw something about maybe allowing AVSs to submit their own Merkle roots for the rewards distribution. What's that looking like? Is that something that's kind of like, it's maybe you're thinking about it, but it's not sort of on the direct roadmap yet?
We had considered it. It would actually be relatively easy to do. Couple of things. One, if you really wanted to do that, you wouldn't need us to do it. You could just put your own like Merkle root claim or contract and say, here's how I'm paying you guys. So you wouldn't necessarily need it in core protocol right now. That becomes a problem later when you also need to do slashing and stuff. It also makes it difficult for people to know what you're going to earn. Like if you just can arbitrarily pay people via some Merkle root, like how do you attract stakers? Well, how are you projecting, you know, what their yield might be and or what their APYs are going to be if you're doing it sort of in this fashion? Very difficult, especially for institutional folks to like parse what's going on there. In addition to that, at scale, you would then have to claim your tokens per AVS. So if if everyone was doing this, I delegated to one operator, I'd have to do like 5 claim transactions if they were running all those. So there were some immediate downsides to that, and it almost all related to operator and staker experience. Not to say that we threw it out, it's still there. We just haven't found a good way to do it yet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also directly related to this idea of feature request to the protocol to change the considerations that are used to calculate payments. And so the idea of submitting just your own Merkle roots based on your own calculations kind of fits into that model as well. So yeah, please reach out. I want to talk more about that.
There's at no point are we saying no. I think if it sounds like a no, what I really mean is talk to Brandon.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that second option, what was talked about earlier about being able to be flexible with the rules or the constraints of building the Merkle root that you guys are posting or that third party's posting, that would probably be better. Yeah, we'll talk more.
I mean, just shooting from the hip, if we get this VM, this payments rollup VM to look more like a traditional like EVM L2, then how you program the logic of how your payments get distributed starts to get very straightforward. And we already know what that model looks like. Hey, that's kind of what's up here. It's like we're kind of, doing this, but it's early.
I mean, I have a follow-up question. Is kind of like the own Merkle Group submission kind of like related to like operator performance based rewards? Because I know there's like, yeah, like operators have more tasks, and that's part of the commission stuff that we're talking about, and operator based rewards, but also like having like a being able to like submit like your own views on like which operators are performant, which ones are like not really available or have like low uptime. Is that kind of the use case you're trying to fulfill here?
Yeah, I'm sort of piggybacking on what Ishmael was talking about, because I'm sort of thinking about this problem too. But yeah, it was really just about if you can do your own work route, that sounds like infinite flexibility. If we could change the constraints of the rules in sort of the kind of roll up, then that should be pretty flexible enough too. But yeah, it is related to this like task based reward system.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
I have another one. About claiming for heterogeneous assets. So when a user goes to claim and they, for example, want to claim a series of, or a staker wants to claim a series of rewards that they receive, do you have a best practice of how they normalize that into something that they can ideally claim in a more uniform way that doesn't have a whole bunch of ERC20 transfer costs for them? Or how do you kind of think about the right design flow on that within the protocol when it kind of matures?
Like if I have 20 different tokens I'm getting paid in to like swap them out to ETH or something?
Yeah, or how, I mean, because if you're staking if I'm delegating stake to an operator and they're running 10 AVSs and I have a small amount of stake, I have like 1, 2, 3 ETH or something, and I'm receiving rewards, but I'm receiving probably very low with respect to the amount of transfer fee that have to accrue from actually claiming all of that.
Right. My strategy for like your typical retail staker would then be to accrue the rewards and then claim claim after it's been accrued, and you can do that in a single transaction. You can wait a whole year and then just get them all at once. I mean, it's the same problem of like, how do I buy $100 of Pepe on ETH? And the answer is you don't. You buy $10,000 of Pepe, because that's what that makes it worth it on the gas.
And so you are specifying exactly which assets you want to claim, and you are claiming all the assets that have been accrued so far. So I can probably point you to some like examples in DeFi that use a similar structure. So as a staker, you can take a look at what's accumulating and make your own decision about how long you want to wait to do that claim. It's similar in some ways to what Pepe will enable on the sort of consensus rewards side of things. Each individual can decide where they want to like make that trade-off and how long they want to wait to keep their costs where they want them.
And if all of your AVSs are paying in the same token, then you can just claim one token once. So you don't even have to do it per AVS. So it's really just like, what tokens have I accrued and which ones do I want to claim all of it of? So it's pretty simplified in that way.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Simon.
Yeah, I have a question. So AVS posts the rewards and it lands on a contract, and like from now on, we simply, to my understanding, lose visibility what is happening with this. And like I don't know as a AVS developer if this posting was taken by sequencer, is like in a rollup or not. I will just figure this out after a week. Do you plan to bring some visibility over this process? Some kind of dashboard, I don't know, API, to take a look what is happening with my rewards for operators?
Yeah, so the thing that will be visible is the posting of the route, because that'll be what happens on the L1. And all of those events are there, so we could easily like build a Doom dashboard for like the process. Because that's really all it is like is the root posted, and like did governance throw it away or change the updater. With regards to like the VM processing, that is fairly opaque right now because it's going to just be running on like private infrastructure. I expect that it will be run by many people when we're done with it. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Right now, if an operator wants to return his assets after exiting an AVS, how shall we withdraw them? Undelegate is not possible for an operator because it's not possible to exit being an operator. There's an opportunity to withdraw the assets through cube withdrawals without check for an operator.
Sorry, does this mean like if you're in a operator but you're also staking? Because you can like as an operator, you can still go through the same like withdrawal flows as a staker. But of course you still have delegated stake from your stakers. Yeah, like you can do that. I'm not quite sure what your question is though.
Daniel, did you want to clarify that?
Maybe we have some mic issues, technical difficulties.
Okay. If you want to follow up either in Slack or re-ask it here in chat, just let me know. Yeah. Other questions? Maybe a different question. Who feels like that this fits with what they want to do, at least in some initial capacity? Maybe just thumbs up emojis for people who are like, yeah, this will work for me for now. And then like, okay, we got one. Explicit, this doesn't have what I need, so I can't use it at all. Thumbs downs.
Feel free to emojis because this will serve as a feedback to protocol.
Yeah. And then who just definitely needs performance-based payment support of some form to proceed? Just throw out.
Taylor Grimes does.
Okay.
Okay. Bunch of stuff there. Okay, if you gave a thumbs up to that and you haven't pinged Brandon, I can't help you. So please bring it to Brandon. We want this operator set release to be perfect. So this is the call to arms there.
Yeah, think of operator sets as like a operator sets plus like rewards kind of release. There'll be added on features. Someone has their hand up.
Mr. Dean.
Yes, so just a technical question. In the Slasher smart contract, like the old Slasher smart contract, there is a function named record first stake update. Is it related to when are you starting to calculate the rewards from, or it's something that is useful or not?
Yeah, the Slasher contract is completely unused at the moment. Don't look at the the older smart contract implementations for the Slasher. It's getting completely revamped right now. So
Yeah,
so any kind of stake updates through the Slasher is not really being used at the moment. So keep an eye out for like the next Slashing release and some initial implementations as we get through there.
I also think that this function is being used in some other places. I don't really remember them, but I saw this in some other places, like the record first stake update. Like, what is this used for, and if it has any relation to the payments?
Yeah, there's no relation to payments. If you want to like message me offline, we can kind of walk through it together.
Yeah,
Okay.
my intuition is that was added pre-M2, but we had this small habit of adding things we think we were going to need later. You'll see less of that behavior. So if something's already in there and it looks like it's for a future thing, just ignore it for now. And
Okay.
as we do releases, we'll be very explicit about what we're adding and like what's useful. And we're
Yeah,
not-
I mean, sorry for the confusion, but if you look at the M2 mainnet, if you look at the mainnet contract of the slasher, it's basically a dummy contract with function interfaces, but they're empty. So
Cool. Thanks.
hope that clears it up.
Awesome. So we are almost close to the ending. If there are more questions, please follow up on the Slack. Scott, Brandon, Michael, all three are there in the Slack in our AVS working group. Please directly ping them. We have the research forum also where we posted our blog post on the payment. Michael posted it, and you can read there. You can comment there also. And we'll have the recording, and I'll post the recording tomorrow. And we'll also announce the theme for the next session tomorrow. So yeah, please look forward to it and feel free to ask questions. Don't shy.
And a little bit has been teased here about what the slashing model is going to look like and how that's going to interact with all these other components. A lot more context in that respect is coming soon.
Oh, Dean has a question. Yeah, Dean, go ahead.
No, mistake.
No worries.
Ignore it.
Cool. Awesome. See you guys all and have a good week ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.